Hey everyone, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. As we continue to move forward towards our launch of Central Reach, I know that there have been some questions that have come up. If you have a learning target or an objective that doesn't seem like it maps on really neatly to one of the ones that are in an existing learning tree, so I thought it might be worthwhile just to go over with you quickly how you can go about creating those objectives, or really what we're going to talk about now is how you can go about creating your own custom learning tree in case you have a client or multiple clients that are gonna have the same objective. How you can create something that's going to be easy for you to sort of be able to just pull that in to all of your clients. So I'm hoping this is going to be helpful. In the interest of full disclosure, I'm learning too. I'm figuring this stuff out as we go, but I wanted to share with you something that I found that I think might be useful. So if you wanted to create that objective from your home screen when you first log on, if we go over to clinical up at the top, and then we go down to library. So if we click on there, this is going to take you to where we've got a whole bunch of these skeleton learning trees that have already been developed. These, I believe they should show up for you, but they're not ones that you can edit. What you would do is if you were looking to use these, you would drop them into your existing clients existing learning tree, and then you could edit them from there, but you can't edit these actual templates. But one thing that we can do is we can create a new learning tree template that will be just for you and anyone that you share it with. So what we can do from this screen is we can go over to the top here, this blue button that says add new. We can click on that add new, and then we can call this program book, this learning tree, anything that we want to, right? So in this case, I'm calling it Rob's personal learning tree template because I'm making it. You call it whatever you want to call it, because this is going to be for you. You will be able to share it with people if you want to, which will be a cool way to let other people benefit from the fruits of your labor, but you don't have to. So we're going to title it and we're going to say private learning tree template for your own personal use, but can be shared with others. And then we're going to say create learning tree. So we click on that, right? And so we've got this screen right here that comes up with, you can see that, I created it, so I can do anything that I want with it. And it's also shared with SEBC, and it can be either read only or can edit. So what you can do with this, if you wanted to, like if I had somebody else that I wanted to share this with, like if I wanted to share it with Courtney, I can just say, yeah, I want to share it with Courtney, and I'm going to say share. And then I can give Courtney whatever access I want her to have. I can say she can read it, which means she'll be able to pull it into her clients, but can't make any changes to it. Or I can let her know that she can edit it. Again, if I give her read only, once she pulls it into her client, she can edit it however she wants for her client, right? But she can't edit the actual, the template that I'm making, right? So I can say either can edit or read only. Or if I'm like, I made a mistake, I don't really want Courtney to have access, I can just hit the trash can and get rid of giving her access, right? So once you do this, we can then just close it out. And now you can see that we're inside Rob's personal learning tree template that we just created here, right? So now what I can do, let's say that I had an objective that didn't really feel like it mapped on to any of the existing templates we have. And I pulled one here. So we got this objective. Client will imitate 5 different gross motor actions and 60% of opportunities across 2 different adults. This is an objective that I literally just pulled in directly from somebody's off, right? And let's say that this is the one that I'm looking to create a learning target for, and I want it to show up for my staff to be able to take data on this. Okay, what I'm going to do from within Rob's personal learning tree template, I'm going to click the plus to add branch. Now we remember with branches, we need to have 3 levels, right? We need to have a long term, a short term, and a data collection, right? And so the long term and short term are both cumulative. So I'm going to start with cumulative. Once I click on cumulative, I'm going to enter that overarching goal name. And there's nothing special about what you call it here. You want it to be something that you're going to be able to remember and is going to make intuitive sense. But here we've got client will imitate 5 different gross motor actions. So if we wanted it, it could be as simple as imitation. Could be our long-term target, right? And I'm going to save that. Okay, so now we see we're a little bit farther along. We had we're within my learning tree template, right? Rob's personal learning tree template, but now I've created a long-term goal of imitation. So because I'm here, I'm inside imitation already, right? So now I've got my long-term, I can add my short-term. So I'm going to add a branch again. Now I'm adding my branch, again, cumulative, because this is going to be my short-term. I'm going to add it under my imitation, right? So here, my short term is going to be, if we go back and look at the objective, imitate 5 different gross motor actions, right? So maybe my short term is imitate gross motor actions. Right? This is going to be my short term, and I'm going to save that one as well. So now we see we're now inside. If we look over at the left-hand side, we've got imitation is our long term. Under imitation, we've got imitate gross motor actions, right? And if I clicked up here where it says imitation, now this changed. So I'm back in imitation. I'm in my long term here. So if I also had imitate sounds, or I had imitate fine motor actions, or I had imitate whatever, I could create more short-term targets that would fall under imitation just by clicking on my plus sign. I could make that happen, right? But in this case, that's not what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to go back to my short term, which is imitate gross motor actions. And now I'm looking to add what those actual targets are that are going to be under my imitate gross motor actions. So again, once I'm in imitate gross motor actions, I'm going to click on the plus for add branch. And now I'm going to go into data collection, because these are my actual targets, are going to be data collection. So I click on data collection, and now it says goal name, but really what we've got here is we've got our actual target that we're looking for here. And let's say that that the gross motor action, one of them that I'm looking to do is clap hands, right? So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put in clap hands as a target. There's a place for an instructional notes template. Let's see what happens if I click on that. Okay, I see that I've got SEBC behaviors to increase template. That probably makes sense there. So I can click on that to add that template there, right? This other stuff, we can fill it in if we want to, but we don't have to. So if you wanted to choose a domain, we can say that it's, oh, look at this, we've got imitation. I can select imitation there. That's fine, that works, okay? I scroll down a little bit further, and now we think about what kind of data collection we want to do for our gross motor imitation. And for this, I would really suggest that you think about, what are you doing now, right? For your existing client, you're probably, for gross motor imitation, you're probably like, okay, I'm going to say do this. And if the client does it, I'm going to score it as a plus. If they don't do it or they do something different, I'm going to score it as a minus. So percent correct makes a lot of sense there. So I'm going to leave percent correct alone. But I've got all these others that I could choose. Some of them, these are not going to make sense for gross motor imitation, right? I'm going to leave it as percent correct. Now we go down a little bit lower. We've got maximum trials, minimum trials, right? And we can think about this as, what's the maximum number of trials I want data to be taken on? Like, do I want to run 100 trials of clap hands during a session? Probably not. I probably want to limit that to a certain point. Let's say I limit it to 10, but you don't have to do 10. You can choose whatever number you want. Minimum trials is really interesting too. Minimum trials comes into play because let's say that your tech only gets to run 1 trial of do this with clap hands, right? If they only run 1 trial, the possibility is that it's either 100% or 0% for the day, right? Maybe we decide that if you only run 1 trial, that's not really useful data and we want to exclude that. Maybe there's a minimum number that you have to get to, otherwise we're excluding the data, right? Nothing magic about what you want that number to be. You could say that it's 10 and you've got to run 10 or we're not counting it. But maybe you want it to be something lower. Maybe you say as long as we get to running 4 trials for the day, that's cool, we'll count that target. Go ahead and make your minimum trials 4. Set it for what you think it's most appropriate for it to be, okay? Session type is going to stay net. That's going to keep that in the middle of our data sheet, right? And then we scroll down. We've got criteria and prompting settings. We can import a template here too if we want. And so we know that we're talking about a behavior to increase here, right? Gross motor actions. Here we're looking for them to imitate clapping hands when we say do this, right? So what we're going to go with, realistically, if you think about how are you going to prompt your client? How are you prompting your client now? Maybe you're not. Or if you are, you're probably using some kind of a physical prompt for that. If you say do this and the client doesn't do it, maybe you're going in with the full physical prompt, right? So we've got a couple of different options here. If we're using physical prompts, we can do physical prompt fading technician prompt selection or physical prompt fading prompt level for session. Let's talk about the difference between the two of those, okay? If it's prompt level for session, that means we're starting out with, let's say if this is the first time the client's doing it, we're saying, do this, and we immediately reach and do a full physical, right? The technician doesn't get to decide. They don't get to wait to see if the client responds independently. They're going right in for the full physical in a true errorless manner. And then once the client gets a certain number of sessions at mastery criterion, then we would go in, once they get to that 80%, it would fade to a light physical and then fade again and then fade again. So if you want to set the prompt level for session, you can do that. But if you wanted it to be a situation where it's honestly more of like that's like a most to least, right? Or a most to least and we're fading. If we wanted to do more of a least to most kind of a situation, then we might want to go with the technician prompt selection. What this is going to do, this is going to let the technician say, do this, and clap the hands, and then the client, the technician waits and sees how the client responds, right? And if the client doesn't respond in independent, then they would go with the least restrictive, right? Maybe it's a light physical, and then if they don't respond to the light physical, then they go to full physical. It lets the technician choose and score which level of prompting was required. Again, nothing magic. It's what are you doing now? You're probably doing one of those two. So you either go with prompt fading template technician prompt selection, which is basically, it would be physical prompt fading technician prompt selection, which would be a least to most, or physical prompt fading prompt level for session, which would be a most to least. Let's say we're doing at least to most. I'm going to select that one, right? And boom, it just pops everything in. And what's cool, it pops in your baseline, intervention, generalization. It pops all this stuff in. So we are good to go. Okay? So we do this, and now we're going to say, let's save it as a draft. Well, we're going to save it. Okay? Once we save it, now let's take a look at what we have over here on the left-hand side. We've got our long-term goal of imitation, our short-term goal of imitate gross motor actions under imitation, and now our first actual target of clap hands that falls under imitate gross motor actions, because those are that's one of the targets that we wanted. But now let's go back and look at our objective. Client will imitate 5 different gross motor actions. So we want 5 of these to go on here, right? So we've got clap hands. And we've already created everything that we need for clap hands, right? We've created our prompting hierarchy, our criteria for mastery and generalization. We've created everything, the minimum number, the maximum number of trials. We've created everything we need to create for clap hands. So the hard work is done here. Here's what we can do, though. We know we need 4 more because it's got to be 5 options, 5 targets. So now we go over to where it says branch options up over here. Click on branch options, go to bulk copy branch. How many times would you like to copy this branch? We know we need 5 targets. We've got 1 already. So let's copy it 4 more times. And let's say copy branch. Okay, so we just copied that. You see they don't show up here because what we have to do is we have to refresh our screen to get them to show up. So let's go to reload this page. And now look at this. We've got 5 different clap hands. Obviously, we don't want 5 clap hands, so we're going to go down to the second one, click on it, right? And now let's go over and hit the pencil icon to edit that. And now let's make our second one pat head, right? Done editing. And look at it now. We've got clap hands and pat head. Now let's go to the third one. Let's edit that one. And let's say that this one is rub belly. Done editing. There we've got our 3 targets. Now let's go to our 4th target. And let's go and let's edit this one. And we're gonna make this one, goodness, who knows, right? We're gonna tug our ears. Maybe these are weird targets. I don't know, guys. You make them whatever you want them to be, right? Now we've got tug ears. We need one more thing that's gonna be an imitate gross motor action. Again, we click on that last clap hands. We go over to the pencil, and we're gonna make this one cover eyes with hands. Why not, right? Done editing. Now look what we've got. Long-term goal, imitation. Short-term goal, imitate gross motor actions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gross motor actions that are all set up now for us to be able to include on our data sheet and be able to take data, okay? Now, the very last thing that we need to do, we see that this says this tree is in draft mode. We go to imitation, and we're going to make it active. It says this branch has child branches, right? Because we're making imitation active, but we want to make everything under imitation active as well. So we're going to say, yes, change all branches. Boom. Now this whole thing is active, okay? We just created this. So now when you go into clinical and we go down to library, look what we've got. Rob's personal learning tree template. Still says that's a draft. Let's figure out what we need. Look at this. Make this tree active to assign it to a contact, okay? Let's go ahead and make this tree active. Yes, change all branches. Now everything should be active. Let's try it again. Clinical, library, Rob's personal learning tree template. It is in there, okay? And so now if I wanted to add more, and so what's great about this, just to recap, is let's say I've got 8 clients, and every single one of them has gross motor imitation, will imitate 5 actions. I don't need to create this for all 5. I just created it once. I've got it in my own personal learning tree template. Now when I go to my individual clients learning tree, and I go into I'll show you the way we'll do that. I'm not actually going to pull up a client's learning tree because I want to be careful that I'm being protective of client names here. But if I wanted to, I've got imitation here as something that's in my client's learning tree, let's say, right? If I went over when I'm in their individual learning tree and I said add branch, check it out, library. So now for my individual client, I just click on library. And check it out, I've got Rob's personal learning tree template. I click on the arrow to expand that. There it is, imitation. Imitate gross motor actions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm in imitation already, so if I wanted to add, obviously I'm not going to do that because it's here already, but for my individual client, yep, I want to grab imitate gross motor actions with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I were to click on add selected, it's going to shoot that right into that client's learning tree. Right, work done. So if you've got multiple clients that are all going to have the same targets, create it once as your own personal learning tree template, and then you can just grab it and throw it in there, and then they've got it, right? So again, I'm just going to X out of this. We're not going to do it here. But the bottom line is this is going to make it way easier for you to be able to quickly create those targets. So what I would suggest as you're working on this, go back to your reauths or go back to your current targets. Look at what those targets are. And if there's already a learning tree in the learning tree library that maps on easily to that, that's great. Go ahead and grab it. But if there's not, or if you're having a hard time finding it, it's not, I mean, obviously it's time consuming. This probably took me, what, 15 minutes to do this tutorial for one objective? That's fair. It's going to take you maybe 15 minutes to do it. But once you do it, it's done, and you can drag that target into all of your clients. So go through and create this for all the different targets that you have for your learner, and then you can just drop them in. And I think that this should make the process way easier for you. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. Like I said, I'm learning too. This is brand new stuff to me, but I am happy to help. in any way that I can. And if I don't know the answer, I'm happy to get the answer for you. Okay. Thanks so much and have a great day.